about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an Intel Analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don Neuen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Hello.
Hello, Denise Simon. It's your old buddy, Don
it's you.
Neuen. Of course it is.
Hi.
I call you almost every night. You don't have to act surprised. You don't have to act surprised. Although, this is the big recorded episode, Denise. This is the big one.
Yes.
This
All
is
right.
the one we plan all week for this one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, since Denise isn't going to play along with me in my little humor fest, I hope you will. Welcome to tonight's Drive Time Situation Report. My name is Don Neuen. I am in my personal vehicle just now leaving the office after a grueling day in the world of rock and roll. Denise Simon on the other end of this conversation has undoubtedly been in a grueling 18-hour day in the world of sifting through intelligence, current events, news, both foreign and domestic. And we welcome you to the big Drive Time Situation Report. Denise Simon, I have had absolutely no opportunity to even check Drudge today. As far as I take that back. No, I didn't check Drudge, but Donna hit me earlier today and said that Roseanne's show's been canceled. That's all I know. I don't know why. I'm assuming she's pissed somebody off. But why don't you timestamp it? And I am a lump of clay that you are able to mold with intelligence and the analyzation of intelligence. How's that sound, Denise? That was pretty syrupy, wasn't it?
Analyzation.
What did I say? The analyzing?
Analyzation.
What word did I use? I don't use a
Analyzation.
script. Well, is that a good word?
I have no idea. I'm not sure I know what that word is.
The act of analyzing.
Okay. Good to know.
Hey, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get after it. We got about 51 minutes left, and we're going to go nonstop with an intelligence report, a SITREP.
All right. Well, it's 8:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 29th of May in the year of our Lord 2018.
Excellent job.
Aw,
Excellent
thanks.
job, if I do say so
Thanks.
myself. Hey, you don't ever do that when we're not recording it. Have you noticed that?
I try and be a good girl when I'm on the air.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about that last week when you were describing something as poo-poo. And we know that's not what you would say if I'd called you the night before.
True enough.
All right, so, Niecy, what's going on with Roseanne? Can we do a brief yet poignant discussion about that?
Yeah,
Since it's all I know.
she
It's
sent
all
out
I know about today.
apparently she sent out a couple of tweets today, this morning, and she kind of went after Valerie Jarrett, and there was a reference to Planet of the Apes and the Muslim Brotherhood, and maybe even Chelsea Clinton being married to her husband, who is George Soros's nephew or something. Just kind of didn't work out in her favor. Because within minutes, and I mean minutes, the ABC canceled the show. Cancel it, done. And then apparently Disney, who owns, some large portion of ABC or something, they endorsed the show being canceled. They endorsed the decision to cancel the show. So it's canceled, done. And then about 2 hours later, her agency, whoever her agent is that, has more than one star, if you will, they canceled her contract on her. Now, the big thing is this. This is not something that's really new for Roseanne. Now, I didn't watch the show. I don't know anything about it. But I do know that she can be just a little sideways sometimes. And she has previously had a history of that. And so I believe that ABC knew precisely who they were getting when they rehired her or hired her to do Roseanne Reboot or whatever the name of the show is. So personally, I think it was a setup. But nonetheless, they've canceled the show.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on. I told Donna when I saw that, when she hit me with that in Skype, I said, they've been looking for a reason to get rid of her.
Well, and there's the key. Get rid of her. But they didn't.
Well,
they canceled
there
the
isn't
show.
A show without. Well, there's no show without her.
Well,
Everybody
I don't.
else, including Dan, is a dirge.
Okay, but here's the deal. You have a show. You have a time slot. So now you've got other actors that are now out of work. Then you have the cast and the crew. The people that write the script and write the jokes and the lighting people in the studio. I mean, all these other people are now out of a job because of something she did. You see what I'm saying?
Well, let me ask you this. In your opinion, was she fired and her show was canceled and all these other people lost their jobs due to Roseanne exercising her First Amendment?
Well, I'm kind of glad you brought that up because she did this on Twitter on her own personal time, and it's not acceptable. Now, did she cross the Rubicon on this? Well, maybe, but now, I mean, her career's over with forever, and I would say she probably, wherever she lives, it'd probably be a good idea at this point she even moved. But when it comes to these NFL football players, after this new policy was released that was determined out of Atlanta, I might add, they get to exercise their First Amendment while they're at work.
Well, and I need to bring up a point that Mark Levin made very well last week. They are not protected under the First Amendment when they are at work. The First Amendment protects you against your freedom of speech with regard to the government, the federal government. That's what the First Amendment protects you from. So they're not protected, and neither was she. But the problem is she was terminated for exercising her First Amendment right.
Yeah, and I would say this. I guess, I don't know exactly how, these sitcom things on TV work. I think you film 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and then based on the ratings, you decide whether to renew or not. I guess that's how. So likely
That's one way.
Okay, so likely the show has already for whatever number of weeks has already been all filmed, but now it's just been pulled completely. So. Well,
again, let's just lay this out so that we can kind of unpack this. If we're going to talk about it anymore. If not, it's just so that at least everybody that's listening to this show understands something that's very important, and that is, the protection of your First Amendment right versus exercising your First Amendment right. And again, she is not protected under the First Amendment against the network. The network is not the federal government, and it has absolutely nothing to do with protecting her under her First Amendment right. Right. Now, the fact of the matter is that Roseanne was terminated and the show was canceled and all these other actors lost their jobs due to her exercising her First Amendment right, which I think if this was a reversal and these things had been said against Donald Trump by a left-wing kook in Hollywood during a show, which they have been, Denise, as you know all too well, there would have been no pushback and nobody would have been fired and no shows would have been canceled. But because, Roseanne has publicly shown support for Trump, just like I told Donna, they were looking for a reason. They were looking for a reason, and she's been on their radar since day one because of her support for Trump. But do you agree with me regarding my comment on the First Amendment?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And so now where we are, and where I would argue that what a lot of us have been for quite some time, that when you are in a conversation with anybody who is of like mind or not of like mind, you still self-censor. Whatever we...
Well, yeah, clearly she was tweeting out erroneous information. The other thing she was
But she
tweeting
also
out,
said it was a joke almost immediately. She said it was a joke. And then she came back and she apologized and she said it was a joke. And she put out, a very big apology. And then she said, okay, there were several tweets that she's leaving Twitter, so she's gone.
well, hey, we all know the bottom line and the reason behind the show being canceled and this whole big brouhaha over this series of tweets is because she supported Trump. We know that's the reason it happened. If she would have been calling him Cheeto Man or comparing him to a baboon's ass, nobody would have said anything. They would have been praising her tweets.
Well, we also have to remember, I think it's Ben Rhodes, whose brother, I think it's Ben Rhodes, one of the Obama White House officials that coordinated all
nefarious characters.
Yeah, his brother is president of ABC News. So I'm sure
Exactly.
there was a phone call that was made and who made it, what was said, but I can just tell you there was a phone call that was made that said pull the plug.
No doubt. No doubt. All right, well, let's move past her. Let's step over the bodies, as you say often. What else is going on in the world?
Well, we certainly have all kinds of tracks going here for the Trump Kim Jong-un talks that, may in fact still happen June the 12th. Because now we've got one of the top North Korean foreign minister people who apparently is a big muckety-muck within the Kim regime. He is on his way or may have already arrived in New York. And he is, what the real purpose of all that is, I don't know. But now I understand that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is flying to New York to meet with him. So why he's in New York and not Washington, D.C., I don't know the answer to that.
Maybe he got a better price on his flight.
It could be. The other piece
well, I mean, when your people graze in city parks for nutrition, it only stands to reason that I'm sure that they went on to Travelocity or one of those, travel sites to be able to book and get the best price. And I bet the price was better to fly into New York. What do you think, Denise? You think I'm onto something here?
I'm not so sure you are on that one.
All right, well, what do you think their confab's going to be about, Big D?
That's actually a very good question. I don't know too much about this cat, and I haven't had a chance to really see what kind of power he wields within the Kim regime. But we do have an envoy that is in Singapore right now as we speak, and they're doing all of their things, which would also include, North Korea experts and former ambassadors and blah, 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 blah. And so that we have that team there now. And then, of course, we have Moon of South Korea that has been meeting in North Korea on their side of the border in the Blue House with Kim and other type of officials. So,
well, let's talk about Moon for a second, okay? Because we interviewed the ever stellar Gordon Chang this week on Cowboy Logic Radio. And Moon is a big concern to Gordon Chang. And he's a big concern to Donna and I'm sure you echo that sentiment.
Absolutely.
He is, without a doubt, a North Korean sympathizer many people that are surrounding him have studied the doctrine of North Korea and are North Korean sympathizers, and he's a socialist, and he's a lightweight, soft socialist, at least in my opinion. I'm not speaking for Gordon Chang on that last half of that description.
It's not an opinion. That is a fact. I mean, that is a stated fact.
Well, are you impressed? Because I didn't read that anyplace. That's just my opinion of the guy.
Well, I mean, it's out there. I mean, it was out there when he was...
But if you don't tell it to me, I don't know about it.
Okay.
Take note of that, ladies and gentlemen. If Denise Simon doesn't let me know about it, I don't know about it, which is why you should go to her website, founderscode.com. All right, back to you, Denise.
Well, yeah, so he is a very big concern, and I would argue that he's got some multiple concerns and himself, and one is that we cannot forget of the up in the terrorist mountains facing South Korea. You've got batteries of artillery pointed at South Korea. You also have a very large faction of families that have been separated, and I think this Moon Cat wants to, really, help his own cause in South Korea by being able to reunify some of these families, and that's fine. There's something to that. We don't know what his real position is because there's very little that comes out of South Korea with any kind of talk of unification of the peninsula. But one thing that's disturbing me is that nobody is speaking to Shinzo Abe of Japan because he's got a major concern. Let's not forget that at least three of his recent missiles that were launched from North Korea were into what they call the waterways of the trade zones, of the shipping zones of the Sea of Japan. And
not to mention also, Denise, North Korea is holding a considerable number of Japanese citizens as prisoners.
Yeah.
That they've not only that they've taken out of South Korea and out of Japan and out of China. I mean, there's an issue about, Japanese citizens that are being held in prisons up in North Korea.
Correct.
So you've got the military issues that Japan is concerned about, but you've also got human rights issues that they rightfully should be concerned about.
Absolutely. We also, North Korea has two satellites in orbit, and they're not in the normal orbit, from what I can tell, and I don't know enough about this, but I'll just put it out there. It's not in the...
I do.
Do what?
They enter the United States from the Southern Hemisphere.
Correct.
That's the first thing. Okay?
Correct.
Now, they have changed their trajectory within the past, I would say, 6 months to a year, and I don't know how recently they did it, but they did change the trajectory on that. And I've been saying, and I think you have too, for the past year, if not longer, that Trump ought to take those things out of the damn sky, and he ought to take them out over the South Pole. Because Dr. Pry, Trevor Loudon, Gordon Chang, Paul Vallely, and a host of other people all agree that those are armed with a nuke. Now, I don't know whether you agree with me on all this, but and I also don't know if I shed any light on that for the listeners because we have been talking about it. But that to me is the biggest no-brainer in the history of the world. They need to be taken out because we can't monitor them properly, and they need to be taken out someplace where there's not going to be any destruction caused, and that's the South Pole. Back to you, Denise. Well,
they are out of range of our normal interceptors, and we don't have a lot of interceptors. I think we have probably, 4 dozen or so interceptors, but they are mostly, obviously positioned because of Russia. But when you look at a map, North Korea is like right next door. So those satellites are out of what I would call the view cone or the alert cone of our interceptors. So therein lies yet another problem. And they have two. They do have a missile program where there were apparently at least two more in the hopper to be launched in 2018.
They should have never been launched in the first place.
I don't disagree.
Period, end of story.
Now, the U.S. government has a division which comes out of Cyber Command called CERT, C-E-R-T. Today, interestingly enough, I just happened to get an email from them that says the Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Bureau of Investigation have released a joint technical alert that identifies two families of malware referred to as Yonap and Brown Bull, based by, created by, used by the North Korean government. The U.S. government refers to the malicious cyber activity by the North Korean government as Hidden Cobra. And I haven't read the whole thing, but I would say that given any that is sitting out there and it has been identified, and the United States government through Cyber Command has put out this alert that if things do go sideways, if things don't come out on the other end of this confab, or it gets canceled again between now and the 12th, then I would say be careful, because we might have Hidden Cobra, which is a backdoor Trojan, and the other one, Bromble, is a server blockworm that we can expect some pretty nasty things.
The fact that the United States is not leading the universe in defensive cyber warfare is beyond me. Absolutely beyond me.
I don't disagree with that one either. That to me is probably the most frustrating part of my everyday existence, is how feeble and ignorant we are on having a cyber policy. It's absolutely remarkable to me that we can't seem to declare what is an act of war, an act of hostility, and what the consequences are. It's a mind blow.
Well, and I blame past administrations for this, clearly, but I also blame the Trump administration. You've been in there for, 16 months now, 17 months, and we can't wrap our heads around cyber warfare from a defensive posture better than we already are, to where North Korea, who you can't even see at night from space, is developing and implementing this kind of malware. It's inexcusable. It's as inexcusable as the fact that our grids are not protected. I find both of those things to be absolutely inexcusable. And I blame everybody that needs to be blamed. Past administrations, including the Trump administration.
I do too.
And all the schmucks in Congress.
I do too.
All right. Get me off my soapbox here.
All right. Well, much has been written about this Libya model, of which everybody, in the diplomatic foreign policy realm has decided they're going to blame, including the left, John Bolton for even suggesting. Because, I listened to two hearings this past week that included Mike Pompeo, and they brought up the Democrats brought up the Libya model more than once. And this Senator Markey guy, this guy's an idiot. But anyway, the Libya model was this. We're going to come into Libya and we are going to take everything that has anything to do with nuclear weapons, and then we're going to remove them. Period. End of report. We're going to send in C-130s and transports and whatever it is, and then we're going to burn up this, and we're going to set fire to that, and we're going to bomb this, whatever. We're going to get rid of any trace of a nuclear weapons program.
And it worked.
But of course the Democrats are saying, well, the reason that Kim Jong-un, is behaving the way he is, and the reason that Trump canceled is because Gaddafi ended up dead. Well, he ended up dead several years later, I might add, in a different administration, I might add.
Exactly.
And then I might.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because he was complying.
Okay. But here's the thing that I think a lot of people are missing, and that is the Pakistan model. Because Pakistan is a rogue country, and nobody tried to go in there and get Pakistan's nuclear weapons, did they? They allowed them to keep them, but we thought we would just control Pakistan for the last 20 years. And whatever AQ Khan has spread around. You see what I'm saying? So I would say, for the sake of the listeners, pay attention to how we handle Pakistan as opposed to Libya, because I guarantee you that's what North Korea wants, and that's what China is telling North Korea in saying we ain't giving up our nuclear weapons. And I think the person who really gets it, probably more than anybody that I've heard that's actually been in front of some kind of a camera, is Marco Rubio. He absolutely gets it. So, Pakistan's got about 100.
You've been singing high praises to little Marco for the past 2 weeks.
Well,
on the
I
SITREP.
have, but I got to give credit where credit is due, and if people say the right things, I'm going to give them a hat tip. If they don't, then I'm not so much. But Pakistan's got an estimated 130, 140 nuclear warheads, and I might add, by the way, it is predicted that they will double that inventory by 2025.
And who is helping to fund that S-hole of a country?
Well, at least the monies that we have been giving to Pakistan, and we had to give them monies because we needed access because of the war in Afghanistan. But we have, and we still do today, but we have also said to Afghanistan, you're not cooperating here because you're still giving sanctuary to Haqqani, to Taliban, to Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, whatever else. We know that you are. And so the Trump administration has said, the money that we give to Pakistan, we're putting into suspension. We're not terminating it. We just ain't going to give you all that we've been giving you because we need you to begin to comply. Now, where that's necessarily going at this point, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would just say that's going to be the position of North Korea, because China, I fully believe that China has completely economically and politically annexed North Korea, and China wants North Korea to have these nuclear weapons because it will always be a bargaining chip.
Yeah, once Kim gives that up, he really doesn't have anything. He has zero leverage.
And then
the only thing he could gain is respect on the world stage.
And then he means nothing to China anymore either, does he?
No. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Drive Time Situation Report. My name is Don Neuen. I am the co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, found on the Talk America Radio Network. And you've got on the other end of this conversation the ever-stellar Denise Simon. She is the host of her own radio show, The Denise Simon Experience, that can be heard Thursday nights on the Talk America Radio Network and all of our affiliates that work with us. Now, before we get on to the next topic, Denise, I do want to bring up your website again. Ladies and gentlemen, I strongly encourage you to go visit Denise's website. You can find that at founderscode.com. And once you get to that website, you're going to find that it's chock full of all kinds of wonderfully written and well-vetted articles that you can read, that you can share, that you can cite, and you can do it all with integrity, because Denise does all the hard work for you. Now, if you're like me, you will sign up for her post notifications. Every time she posts an article, that article will come to you in your email inbox if you simply put your email address in the little window there at the top of the page. I encourage you to do this. Why? Denise, I think you'll agree with me that our listeners are the brightest and the most well-informed and well-educated listeners in talk radio. This will take you over the top, ladies and gentlemen. It'll make you appear, it'll make you more intelligent than you already are, and we already think you're way up on the food chain with that. I'm the perfect example of that. I'm a guy that lives in the world of rock and roll all week, all day long, and Denise makes me actually look like I know what I'm talking about, to where people listen to my radio show. It's amazing, Denise.
Oh,
that was way too much of a pregnant pause. Now, here's the deal, Denise. Every week, I plug your website, and I talk about how great the work you do.
Yes, you do.
And your pregnant pauses, it's like you're in the third trimester here with this thing.
Not so much, but okay.
I thought that was a good analogy, don't you?
Well, I just, I'm just not one to kind of gloat or brag of myself, and it's very hard for when
you're not. That's why I'm doing it. That's why I do it
also,
for you.
Thank
you. Okay. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, Denise is way too humble to accept my endorsements of her website and her great work. So take my word for it and go deal with it and check it out and sign up for it and start enjoying having all that information sent to your inbox. All right. What's next, Denise?
Well, this is an interesting thing that nobody has talked about, and I'm really rather surprised at it all. But last Friday, Trump signed 3 executive orders, and nobody is really talking about it. So I decided I was going to go dig into it and put a post out there about it. But these 3 executive orders make it easier to fire federal employees, overhaul their official time on what they do when they're on the clock and not on the clock. And then it also addresses unions. And
so are we actually making headway in holding the employees of the federal government accountable?
Well, they already were, but nobody enforced anything. So what he has essentially done, and I think this is coming from, certainly, if nothing else, the VA. Because once you have an employee working for the government, interestingly enough, it says that the General Accounting Office says it takes between 6 months and a year on the average to remove federal employees flagged for misconduct, plus an average of 8 more months to resolve the appeals. So do you see where I'm going with that? In other words, you can't get rid of them.
Yeah, we knew that. You just have to reassign them to like pencil sharpener guys.
And so this is what he has done. And of course, federal employees, a lot of them are really pushing back pretty hard. The other thing that he is doing is making it easier to fire them if he needs to under the Federal Employees Whistleblower Protection Act. Because there are people that come and say, hey, Susie Q over here is doing this, she's stealing that, she's taking iPads home, she's driving company, government cars, on vacation and all these other kinds of things. And so you have a whistleblower that comes forward, and then the next thing you know, it's the whistleblower who is being, sent in the corner. And so now what is happening here is under that whistleblower, they are fully protected, and that, they encourage more of these whistleblowers to come forward for federal employees that are absolutely abusing, if you will, all things government. So the other part,
and please give me one example of why this isn't a great and epic moment in the annals of government employees, and the fact that you can't terminate anybody without going through 2 years of BS.
This is a very good thing.
Why should we not be elated?
We should be.
I am. I almost ran off the road. I was so elated.
Okay, now let's go to official time, because federal employees can be paid for union work while they're on the clock. Did you know that?
Doesn't surprise me.
Well, now, and I don't think it's enough, But under his executive order, the federal employees would not be able to spend more than 25% of their work hours on union work. What? But as a caveat, the executive order also calls on agency to renegotiate contracts with labor unions plural, and reduce the official time by 2/3. So it's a step in the right direction. But I wish it had gone a little bit further. So they're going to, the agencies have been asked to renegotiate their labor contracts.
I bet they're just thrilled about this.
Yeah, they ain't happy.
Hey, too bad.
Well, that's kind of my thought. That's absolutely kind of my thought. But here's an interesting, so I decided, let's go see how bad this problem really is. Well, in 2017, union membership in the public sector workers is 34.4%. Now, in the private sector, it's 6.5%. What does that tell you?
It tells me a lot.
Okay. Workers in the protective service occupations like education and all those kinds of things have the highest union rate at 34.7%. So I would say... well,
that's working out well, don't you think?
Yeah. So this is not getting any kind of media legs, but I have a feeling our little friend over there, Mick Mulvaney, over there that went over to the National Labor Relations Board, was starting to uncover some fascinating things, and I think that's where these executive orders were launched.
Very cool.
So we begin to clean up things in government there, if for nothing else, right there.
Well, that cleaning up things in government is...
Oh, it's Herculean, yeah.
I mean, it's like going, well, how big's the universe, Denise?
Exactly. It's a black hole.
Yeah.
But now you've got all these unions, like the National Treasury Employees Union, whatever the heck that is. They're calling these executive orders an assault on federal employees. Well, wait a second. We didn't say the entire government. If they're upset about it, there's only 34%. Let them go. Goodbye. We don't need you. And by the way, Don, why do we need labor unions in government? We just gave them, if you're in a private company and you get fired for cause, you go. That's it. But we just said that it takes months, and then there's an appeal process, which takes even more months. So you could be looking at 3 to 5 years to get rid of a federal employee if they're not just reassigned because they just want to make the problem go away. So they already have that protection in spite of being in a union. But we've legislated all these kinds of things away. They can't complain about work conditions. They can't complain about their hours. You see what I'm saying? It's nuts. So, they're saying that the American Federation of Government Employees says that President Trump is what? He's chipping away at federal employees' rights. Rights?
Yeah. Last time I checked, they didn't have any rights that weren't already listed in the Constitution of the Bill of Rights.
So, I think that this is a very good thing. And I guess in order to not make anybody mad, including those in media, that nobody talked about those 3 executive orders last Friday.
Of course not. It doesn't fit their narrative. I'm suggesting that all these pissed off government employees should just take a knee.
There you go.
Take a knee. For this workplace injustice.
Well, they may be doing that.
Is burdening them.
They may have been doing that very thing.
Take a knee.
Look.
Knee.
Do these unions actually have what I would call influence over normal government operations? Normal government operations, you got to do blah 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 blah. There's a code of ethics and there's rules and blah 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 blah. But these union employees think that they're a protected class because they're government union employees, whatever union they may. And so they're actually impeding normal government operations, correct?
Yeah. And they don't follow any of that. They don't follow the ethics. No place do they follow ethics.
Well, we certainly learned a lot of that here in the last 4 or 5 months, haven't we?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine if the private sector operated like the federal government or even the state government sector, the public sector does? Can you imagine? It might look like a socialist country.
Something like that.
All right, let me tell everybody one more time about your stellar website, Denise. Ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to go to Founders Code. That's founder with an S, founderscode.com. That's Denise's personal website. Her work can be read on a host of other websites and aggregate sites. But if you want to go to the main source, go to her own site, founderscode.com. Sign up for her, I guess the best way to term this, Denise, is your article notification. Whenever you post something, it shows up in my inbox automatically, and then I can read it whenever I got the time to read it. I got to be honest, Denise, sometimes I don't have the time to read them, and so I rely on a SITREP for you to tell me what's in your article. But see, you guys don't all have the luxury of being able to do that. So that's why I'm really encouraging that you sign up for her daily postings that can number up to like 6 sometimes.
I've been good here lately. I've only done 3 or 4 a day.
Oh, what are you, tired?
No, I'm just doing an awful
What,
lot
are
of
you playing
research.
more tennis? Are you playing too much tennis?
Just doing a little bit more research because there's always more to the story.
No, I'm kidding with you. When do you stop playing tennis? Because it's got to be getting hotter than hell down there in Central Florida.
Well, I haven't been playing too much because it's been raining so much. But
when did that stop you in the past?
Well, I mean, you can't play on clay in the rain. It's like mud.
Yeah.
League is just about over, and now we just play recreationally.
So when does this stop? Because when it gets really hot, you guys stop until the fall. Because I can talk to you in the morning then more often.
Yeah, sometimes. No, I think I got one more, and then I'm done.
All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Email me if you want Denise's personal cell phone number, and now all of you can call her in the mornings. Make it early, though, because she's already up. All right, Denise, we got, I'm going to guess, 8 or 9, 10 minutes left.
Okay, well,
take
let me...
us into something creepy. I want to know something creepy.
I'm not going to take you into, well, maybe kind of creepy. We've been hearing in the last week or so something called the blue wave, where the Democrats have been touting the fact that they have been able to raise a lot of money, and they're pouring it into lots of these campaigns for people that, you know, are dropping out, they're not running again, that have quit, you know, all these other kinds of things. And what they're going to do is part of this blue wave, and so coming into the midterms, be prepared for these TV ads and, you know, the talking heads on, you know, these TV networks. They're going to be bringing up 2 things. They're going to be bringing up immigration. They're going to be bringing up Obamacare. And they're going to literally be saying that Obamacare is now owned by the Republicans, by the Trump administration, because of their failure to repeal it or do anything about it, so the Republicans own it. And I would argue, as long as it's called Obamacare, that the Democrats own it. And I haven't seen one Democrat offer up any kind of solution to anything related to Obamacare. There are some states, interestingly enough, too, that are putting in for premium increases. One state, and if I'm not mistaken, it might be Connecticut, but I could be wrong, has asked for a 91% increase in the cost of the premiums. 91%. So where we are with this is we need to push back on these Democrats real hard with this blue wave that they're launching on Obamacare. and make sure that they still wear it like the scarlet letter. Now, I will say the Republicans have kind of dropped it on the floor after, we failed to repeal it. And it's kind of a topic or a law that nobody's really even talking about anymore. And as long as we're not talking about it, then the Democrats are going to take it and own it, and they're going to put the blame on the Republicans. So, if you want to push back on any of the Democrats and any of these candidates, I would really go down that path. The other one is on immigration. We can't seem to come up with any kind of immigration thing either, because we've got about 800,000 DACA kids that, and again, they're all not kids, that are in this mix. And we have some in Congress that have just decided, why do we want to break the entire spectrum of 11 million, 12 million, whatever the number is, for 800,000, which is, I think, the reason that Trump has decided, go ahead and give them amnesty and let's be done with it. But actually, the number he offered was actually higher. So I've already heard so many of the Democrats, including our little friend Kamala Harris, say that the Trump administration has been separating families and they're stripping the kids away from their parents. That's absolutely not true, because what has been happening there happened under the Obama administration and all previous administrations. And so we do have this completely unresolved problem. Now, the Republicans have been pushing the Goodlatte bill. I've read the Goodlatte bill. I'm not a big fan of the Goodlatte bill, because it does essentially give that 800,000 amnesty. I'm not up for getting anybody any amnesty. We did it. It didn't work. We proved it. And if you give them some other kind of status, then it becomes a bureaucratic nightmare on how they're going to prove this, how long that they've been here, all these other kinds of things. So it is absolutely it's an issue that we're not winning on, and the Democrats are going to use it as a weapon against the Republicans. So I would say to the listeners, gather what facts you can possibly gather on immigration, and you put that in your quiver and use those arrows when you need to use it. The other fascinating thing is nobody talks about the countries that these people are coming from. Those countries clearly are not stable, and these people have virtually no loyalty, obviously, because they left, but they come here and whine and complain about the United States, and yet they don't care what happens in their home country. So I would say that we need to talk about stabilizing the Nicaraguas and the Guatemalas and the Hondurases and everything else, so these people can necessarily not have a claim to asylum to come here to the United States. Furthermore, there was a sting operation that was held in Chicago, and I think 162 people were arrested and detained and whatever they did through ICE. And what is particularly interesting about that is that we all are so happy to say deport them. Deport them to what? Because we can't be sure that we send them back and their home country is going to do anything if they've, been proven to have kidnapped somebody or raped somebody or stolen a car or held up a bank or whatever the heck, drugs, narcotics, whatever they did. So I would, and I might, this might be a stupid thought, but I would say to the Hondurases and the Nicaraguas, you know what, the United States will come down there and we will build a U.S. prison system at our cost, and we will even staff it. So when we deport these people and whoever else is in your country has done X, Y, and Z, that's where they go. Because if you ever look at a foreign prison, they're a joke. What say you?
I agree. I mean, just ask El Chapo about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Fascinating. Let me ask you this, Denise. You've given both me and our listeners some good ammo for their bullets regarding the blue wave. Where outside of social media do they go? How can they effectively fight the Democrat Party? Where do you suggest they go? And you got about a minute left.
Call them up. How many of them are actually your representative? Call them up and say, shame on you. And then if they're,
you think they'll care? You think the Democrats are going to really care?
But then you can get on social media or get on their social media page, Senator Markey or Kamala Harris or whoever else, and go, I called your office and this is what I was told, and then put it out there, embarrass them. There you go. There you go. You and I have been talking about this for years, Denise. Label them as what they are. Label them for who they are. Label them for what they stand for, and do it on their Facebook pages and do it on their Twitter accounts. Exactly.
Because your phone calls, you're going to get brushed off. They're going to blow you out, or they're going to blow you aside like they don't give a damn what you think and what you want. And so you got to shame them. You got to call them out as what they are, and you do it publicly.
And those staffers,
and then you'll get your Facebook page shut down, and you open up a different account under something very similar to your own name, and do it again.
And these staffers, you can say, and whoever answers the phone, you want to speak to somebody that has to do with who's working on Obamacare in their office or on an immigration, and they'll put you through to that staff person. If they are your representative or your senator, they'll put you through and then get their name and use it, and then you can get right back on over to their social media pages and go, I talked to this person and this was the conversation. Shame on you.
There you go. Got to shame them. Got to start using some of their own tactics against them, right, Denise?
Exactly right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to a close for this week's Drive Time Sit Rep. Denise, I am about 12 miles from the house, and you know what I'm having tonight for dinner, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
What am I having?
Meatballs.
Spaghetti and meatballs. Yeah, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in with us. We do this for you. As you can clearly tell, there were no commercial breaks. We don't earn any money doing this show. We have no desire to. We do it for you. So do us a favor and spread the word about the Drive Time Sit Rep. Spread the word about the great work that Denise Simon does. Share her website address, founderscode.com. Help us out. Be the foot soldiers for us. We're doing everything we can to help. Denise, take us home until next week, girl.
All righty. Thanks for being with us, and God bless America.